Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone. Good evening once again. And thank you for sparing some time out of your very busy schedule this evening to be a part of this session. My name is Gertrude Ume, and I am a co-founder of the Tech Sales Nexus community. With me here on the call, Kachi is my co-founder of this amazing community for tech sales professionals, both in revenue generating and revenue supporting role. The conversation we're having today is one that is very dear to our heart, and we think and know that it is pivotal to your career, our career as salespeople. Um, Favour Ogunlana-Azeez, she is a seasoned business development executive and has a career that has spanned through the fintech and the media space. Right now, she leads the business development and partnerships team at Big Cabal Media, where I am, will I say, fortunate to be able to work with her and learn with her. I just that once I met Favour and I started working with her, she is my line manager, by the way. I just knew we had to get her here to talk to us. Funny enough, you won't see her anywhere talking. And I'm like, why are you keeping all this to yourself? It's not fair. We have to bring you out a lot more often to talk to people like us who are growing and intend to pivot our careers and make it more impactful in the tech space and beyond whatever sphere you are a part of. So our conversation today is about beyond transactions, building relationships that scale. And we're thrilled to have Favour here. She's a partnerships leader. And this session is especially for entry to mid-level professionals ready to learn how to move past just closing deals to building relationships that drive long-term growth, which is what we all want for ourselves and for the organizations that we represent. Hi, Favour. Thank you for doing this with us. Over to you.
Hi, Gertrude. Thank you so much for having me. Hi, Akachi. Hi, everyone. My name is Favour. I lead partnerships and business development at Big Cabal. Like Gertrude said, I am currently working in media, but I have worked in fintech, financial services. Maybe I haven't started my career in a bit of oil and gas as well, but that's not so relevant to this conversation. I'm really happy to be here, excited, and thank you guys for having me. I'm just going to share my screen. I have a pretty short presentation. And today we're going to be talking about building relationships that scale, the role of authenticity and empathy in partnerships. As much as possible, please feel free to stop me if you have questions. We can also just do like a question and answer session at the end of this, and I'll be happy to answer any questions that you might have. I think one thing that I have learned over the years working as a salesperson is that you need to carry people, you need to build relationships beyond just an invoice and then you move on, right? Like you need to see your clients beyond just the people that are meeting your numbers for the month, right? And the way I see it is I work with some clients from like 2 organizations ago that I've brought to where I'm working right now. Not because I'm even selling the same type of things, right? But because of how I manage those relationships, and you can like benefit so much from referrals, just from having, good quality of people within your personal network as well when you build relationships beyond just an initial transaction. So I put together a very quick 10-page slide to just talk about some key things that we can then discuss at the end. As much as possible, I would love for this to be interactive and for you to ask questions if you have them. Why is this important, right? Sales is evolving and clients expect partnerships and not just pitches. Like as a client, and one thing that always helps me with my sales journey or my pitch journey is I ask myself, if someone approaches me with this thing, would I buy it? Right. So as a salesperson, I'm thinking, if I pitch this way, would I buy from myself? Right. I never want to see somebody sell something to me and it just feels very impersonal. There's no personal touch. There's no emotional connection in that way. Doesn't feel like this person has my best interests at heart. And that's where our clients are thinking as well. So people want you to see them as partners and not just like one-off transactions. The next point here is moving from a transactional relationship to a relationship driven relationship as a sales manager to a trusted advisor. Now, these are three journeys that you want to take yourself through with a client. When you first meet, definitely, the client might know it's transactional, right? But as you build relationships with them, you check in once in a while. We'll talk about that in the next couple of slides. You then want to move on to a trusted advisor stage where no matter what it is you're selling, your client wants to get your opinion on something, right? I have clients who come to me to say, hey, this thing that you're pitching to me, tell me the truth, right? Like, what am I going to get from it really? What extras can I get beyond what's in whatever deck or whatever invoice that you're sharing with me? What is the value? And you want to position yourself over time by building the relationship with your clients to that trusted advisor stage. I've also said here that long-term growth comes from trust, empathy, and shared success. One of the things that I really enjoy at my current role is that I've seen some companies start from scratch and I was their sales manager or client relationship manager, and they've grown into really large companies that are doing very meaningful things within the ecosystem, right? Because of how I built my relationship with them, I feel their win as my win, right? I'm like, oh, I used to know these guys when they were, really little, and they've grown to this scale. And that's because I'm hearing that my client has just maybe raised X amount of money. The next thing I'm thinking is, how am I getting my office to send them a congratulatory cake, or to have my CEO write them a congratulatory letter? I see something posted about them that's positive online. I'm resharing it, I'm reposting it, I'm messaging them and saying congratulations, right? Just having that personal touch. Moving on to the next slide, there's the tendency for us to fall into a transactional trap, especially when you are in a target-oriented role, right? And you've already done the math. If I close 1, 2, 3 deals, this will help me with my numbers for the month or the quarter. But what that means is that you're only seeing those clients as numbers, right? And then we then just focus on the immediate deal. Your client feels like a number, not like a partner, not even like a person sometimes. There's sometimes when it's close to the end of the month and my follow-up sequence with a client, I already know I'm setting myself up for a trap by sending an email, sending a WhatsApp, sending a text. I'm like, this person will feel I'm just chasing them because the month is about to end, right? When you have a transactional sort of relationship with these clients, you will have high churn, low referrals, limited growth. Like, they wouldn't see you, or they wouldn't want to carry you along with their growth journey in a sense. And so that's something that's worthy of note, that we don't fall into the trap of. Now, what does relationship driven selling look like? Deep understanding of the client's goals. And I say to salespeople all the time that you must really be passionate about whatever it is that you're selling. That way, you're not just going out to the market, selling decks, selling numbers. You are actually trying to solve problems that people have. So how are you getting a deep understanding of your client goals? You can't get that over email or over Google Meets alone, right? It's important that you build relationships with your clients to the extent that you can just have a quick call and say, hey, I know we've had a meeting about this, but I just want to get like further understanding, right? How do you see this offer that we're pitching? Does it really meet your goals? What are your pain points, right? Another thing that's really critical with relationship driven selling is ongoing value beyond the contract. So how are you, sometimes depending on where you work, you might not be able to offer extras outside of what's on a contract. But how is your relationship management style, your project management style, your client delivery, how is that the extra that you're able to offer your clients as like additional value? How are you able to make them feel special? I'll give an example. and this is very practical. With where I work at the moment, sometimes we're looking for partners to recommend to our other partners that provide services. And the very first set of people that will come to my mind are my clients, right? I'm like, oh, one of my clients does this, they provide this service, right? How about we use them rather than using somebody that we don't know? I see a client who's looking for a partner that does something that one of my own clients does already. I'm already trying to make those relationships. I'm calling my clients and I'm like, hey, I know somebody in the market for this service. Do you guys offer it, right? And that just shows them that I'm thinking beyond whatever initial transaction that we've done, and I have their best interest at heart. The next is authentic conversations. And I say this to a lot of salespeople. Early on in my sales career, I'm a very introverted person. And so I don't really like to mix my personal life with work. But if you want to build meaningful relationships, there's an extent to which you need to step out of your comfort zone and check in on your clients, like have proper conversations. Just, oh, not I'm just checking on you. It's I have so many of my clients now that I hang out with casually, that where I would say that we are more than just acquaintances. Maybe I might not always use the word friends, but we are beyond that just initial acquaintance level. And there's so much insights that your clients can give to you at that stage beyond just email conversations and Google Meets and Zooms. There's a human element to authenticity and empathy, right? Authenticity in this context, showing up as yourself, not just a sales persona. I have a sales persona, especially for clients that I'm speaking to for the first time. I'm just talking numbers, I'm talking stats, I'm saying what I know they want to hear, right? But as you work with clients over a long period of time, or as time goes by, it's important that you move beyond just the casual speak, right? You should be able to crack a joke, an appropriate joke, right? But you should be able to let your clients feel less tense over time in conversation with you. There's the empathy element, which is really listening actively, right? Understanding their pain points and speaking the client's language. I'll give an example of when I transitioned from fintech to media. I didn't know the basic media terms. I had to spend weeks and even months just researching all the media lingo, because a lot of the people that I was going to be working with at the time, I was moving from working with like partnership managers at other fintechs or business managers at other fintechs, now moving to working with marketing leads, moving to working with a very different type of people. And I needed to learn and truly understand what stats and what metrics were important to them, and learn to speak their language pretty much. The final point on this slide is that trust is the foundation for all long-term relationship growth. And that's just, again, moving beyond the numbers, right? Your client wants to see you as a trusted expert, which means that you must actually know and have like core expertise in what it is you're pitching and selling to them. And they want to see you as somebody they can trust, right? I have some clients who, because of how we've built our relationships, they're coming to me to ask just the most random things, right, about stuff that's related to media. But maybe they're not trying to purchase something that we're selling at the moment, but they're like, hey, we have this like marketing strategy that we're thinking about. Just from a media standpoint, how do I think that I can, pitch this to my internal team? And I'll share as much resources as I can. I've just seen a comment saying that in most cases, being in sales brings one out of the shell of introversion. Definitely, and I agree with that. I always say to my friends, like, I have two personas, right? I have my salesperson persona and I have my real life persona, because I'm a really quiet person when I want to be. But as a salesperson, I'll be doing myself a disservice if I'm not like putting myself out there, networking, engaging. Like I see some of my clients at many mixers or like conferences that I go to, and I have to, show that I care about them. I'm like, oh, the last time I saw you, this is where we last met. And that's because I'm moving from seeing them as numbers to seeing them as people. So that's something that's really critical. The next slide here talks about practical techniques, right? It's important that as salespeople, we ask better questions, moving just beyond what's your budget, right? It's what problems are you trying to solve, and how do you think that the product I'm pitching to you can solve those problems. It's also a psychology thing where you're moving beyond just answering what or asking the questions that they expect you to ask, that they've already come in with answers for. There's sometimes you go on a call and you ask the person a question that they have to think about it and come back to you. That's another touch point for like a follow-up conversation. um Practice active listening, like validating their emotions. There's sometimes in conversations that a client might say they don't think that this product is the right fit. A good response is that you understand their concerns, right? And then you go ahead to explain why you think your product is the right fit. It's also important to map out the client ecosystem, understand who influences decisions. And I'll give a practical example. At some stage in my career, I was mostly having conversations with CEOs. And sometimes you figure that the CEOs are busy, right? No matter how much check-ins you do with them, they might not be able to respond to you. But it might be a more junior person on the team who maybe you think you don't need to build relationships with them. Those might be the people that are moving things in the middle for you internally. So there's something that's called like an internal deal champion, and it's just the person who's like your advocate within another organization. So sometimes it might not be the CEO or like the person at the top of the ladder. It might be a mid-level person or an entry-level person, or sometimes in some cases an intern, right? I've had in my previous place of work where it was an intern who was driving and always chasing, like bringing up the product that we were pitching in their internal meetings, and we finally got that to close. So it's important to understand like what the clients, like mapping that ecosystem and knowing who the final decision maker is or who can drive your case internally. It's important to deliver value outside the deal, like share insights, connect them with useful contacts. I talked about like referring your own clients to other people as well. Like I see myself not just as an advocate for the products that I'm selling, but also an advocate for the clients that I work with. Um, with this particular points that I've highlighted here, I think there's sometimes I see some of my clients that I have a client who's in mining, for example, and I saw the most random article on something that concerned mining in Africa. I read it. I'm like, oh, these people might find it interesting, right? I saw an event. So I work a bit about tech about, we have our own tech conference, right? But I have a client who has a mining adjacent business. And I saw an event that was focused on that. And I shared the link. I'm like, hey guys, in case you find this interesting, are you already participating here? Maybe it's something your team might just want to attend. Now, I have no gain in that, but it shows my clients that I'm actually actively thinking about them and I'm looking out for their best interests. Follow up with intent, right? It's important that when you're chasing even existing conversations, you make it a bit personal. Like you just see your clients as people rather than numbers that you're trying to close at the end of the week or quarter or year. I'm going to move on. I think this is the final slide. Yeah. So building scalable relationships. How do you, sorry, I think yeah. What tools can you use, right? There's some CRM that you can use to help remember the smallest human details like birthdays, milestones, personal interests. In my phone, the way I save people's contacts, I have notes, right? When I have a conversation that's maybe a casual conversation with a client, I write stuff about their interests. Like I know some of my clients that I've worked with that we moved beyond would I say transactional relationships. I wouldn't necessarily say we might be friends yet, but we've definitely progressed in having a more personal relationship outside of work. I write their interests, right? I have clients who are very particular about wines, and I just put it as a note. This person likes wines, right? When I'm going to see them, I do some research about what it is they like outside of work. I have clients who celebrate milestones. That's why LinkedIn is also a very important channel, right? You can see when people are celebrating their anniversaries or when people post stuff. Beyond just liking and commenting on those platforms, if you have them maybe on WhatsApp, for example, very important that you also send a message. Like one of my clients is celebrating X amount of years at her current role and just talked about her growth and journey. And I just sent her a WhatsApp before this role. Oh, congratulations on your 5 years at this place. And, it just feels a bit personal. And again, people want you to see them outside of their role at work or outside just a number, especially because you are a salesperson. Share your client wins, promote client stories to strengthen bonds. This is just, you see something that your client has posted, a new product they've just launched, a milestone, you're reposting it, you're congratulating them, you're making them feel seen. These are some things that you don't have anything to direct, like benefit directly from. You can't draw a straight line between this action and closing for yourself, but these are the things that make the relationships personal. And there's sometimes that I've had some clients say to me, oh, I don't really care about this thing you're selling to me, but you're a good person, right? Or you're good people. And then they go opt for it. In that case, I have to over deliver on value, but it's because you've built like strong relationships with these clients outside of your current role. Think network effects. So this is something that I always have in my mind, and it's one strong relationship rather can open three more. I've had cases that I've many times where people refer other people to me and like, oh, I'm looking for contacts at this place. Sometimes I don't even ask, and they're like, oh, I think these guys might be interested in what you do, or I think you can pitch to these people. I've just spoken to somebody and you crossed my mind, right? So you're not just seeing one client as that client, you're seeing them as a potential for three more clients. The next slide here talks about some mistakes to avoid, especially with how you maintain your relationships with clients. It's over promising and then you under deliver. One thing that I like to do is promise and then over deliver, rather than over promising in my sales pitch and then I'm not able to deliver. This can strain the relationship even beyond, like on a personal level as well. Some other mistake is treating all clients the same way. And I know this might seem controversial, but you need to understand your client's profile and how they like to be like addressed, how they like to be followed up with. There's some clients, for example, that I don't even email anymore because I know they prefer iMessage. My email is just to carry the rest of my team along, so I'm doing recap emails. There are some clients who do not like aggressive phone calls, right? And how do I know that? It's because I've studied them. I've tried to understand what it is they respond to. There's some clients who do not even like WhatsApp messages and you just stick to emails. So it's very important to understand your clients. It might seem like a lot of work, especially if you're selling to so many people at the same time, but it's important to understand how your clients like to be communicated with and how they like to be treated and addressed. The final mistake I've highlighted here is forgetting the human side after the contract is signed. And this is something that a lot of sales managers, even I myself till now, I still sort of drop the ball on. It's when we've delivered a project, we've sent a report, I'm on to the next because I'm chasing the next numbers. But sometimes you forget that someone who delivered numbers for you in January might be the person to help you meet your targets in December. So it's really critical that you still maintain those client relationships. There's something I like to do once in a while, and it's just a check-in sort of email or text message and say, oh, we haven't spoken in a while, but just wanted to say hello or just wanted to do a check-in. I'm not pitching anything to you right now, so don't worry about that. But I just wanted to, let you know that you're still top of mind in the clients I'm thinking of. It's also when you have some perks that you can share with clients, it's important that you also think about some of the clients that you haven't worked with in a while and just share those perks with them. Don't let it feel like you abandon them, especially very quickly after a project has closed. It just feels like, oh, wow, this person has used me. Of course, you haven't used them, right? But let the next time you reach out to a client not be the next time you need something from them. Sometimes just a casual check-in can be helpful. The final slide here, I said that sales isn't about closing deals, it's about opening doors to long-term relationships. At the start of this presentation, I talked about how there are some partners that I've worked with as far back as 2019, maybe, that I'm still working with at my current role. I was doing a totally different thing, selling or pitching a totally different product, but just maintaining those relationships has helped them do referrals for me or has helped me bring up new products to them to sell. I'm happy to take questions at this point, questions, suggestions, comments. And yeah, I would like to open the floor for discussion here.
Thanks, Favour. This was insightful as expected. So this is the time for us to ask Favour all the questions that we would love to ask, especially questions that are like blockers to what you experience right now as a salesperson. If you are entry level, mid level, and you're already client facing, what are those blockers with regards to client management, account management that you'd love to glean some perspective on? Do share. You can drop it in the comment section if you're shy, but I would urge that you raise your hand and say something. We're salespeople. We have to kick shyness in the butt.
Hi, Favour. Thank you so much. This was very insightful. It was also like a reminder of some things. You know how we can be in sales and we want to move forward. We want to just hit quota, and we forget like the basics of sales, and like we're selling to human beings, and we're human beings as well. We're not AIs. Thank you so much for this session. It was really insightful. My question is, I think like one of the things that, I don't know about anyone, but I'm just going to ask for myself. Now that most people are evolving to like a remote sales roles, is there like a better way you think we can build this relationship, knowing that the people that we're probably reaching out to are not, in our vicinity, they're far away, we probably don't even share the same cultural values and everything. Is there like some pointers you can give us to, navigate this particular terrain?
Okay, thank you. I think it's a very interesting question. I'll give two examples. I used to live in Lagos before I moved to the UK, and a lot of my client engagement was very in-person, physical meetings, facing. But when I moved, I had to rely on a lot of virtual communications, right? And that definitely changed, especially with new clients that I've never met in person. There's some of the clients I work with now that I've never met in person, but we sort of built a relationship virtually. I think that using other channels besides emails might be something that has really helped that. It's also LinkedIn, right? Connecting on LinkedIn, liking the posts that they share. That just keeps you top of mind. Sharing articles as well. I've seen some people put some really interesting quotes in their email signature, right? And I might not necessarily be interested in the body of the email that they send me, but it's like maybe it's an article that they're referencing or just an interesting quote that I then reply their email and say, oh, I found this interesting, right? And just like that, we can start off a conversation. I think another thing is just checking in and easing up the language in your email tone, so that with email communications, right, it's very easy for us to be so formal, and I'm all for being formal, but there's also a way to relax tensions with the tones of emails, which is something I've tried to do, especially after I've communicated with somebody on email for a while. I try to ease up some of my language a bit so that it just feels I'm able to express my personality a bit through that. I hope that has answered your question in a way. It's not the easiest, to be honest, because the truth is there's nothing like face-to-face engagement. But some of the things that we can do virtually is like leverage other social networks, like following our clients on Twitter, or following some of the people that we work with on LinkedIn, and just engaging them on those platforms, and maybe easing out the corporate speak a bit, especially when it's not like a first time email or like a cold outreach where you already have established multiple correspondence with a client. I think that is some way to make things feel a bit personal.
Okay, thank you so much. Really appreciate.
Okay. While we, okay, Daniel, before you go, I have a question. And this has to do with some challenges that we face as people in sales who are, keen on building relationships. My career has been built on relationships. My career in sales, I can honestly, when I think about it, even while prepping for this session, I couldn't see how else I would have gotten to the level that I've gotten without relationships built. But there is this thing, right, where professionals get into conflict or disappointment. Say you mentioned something earlier while you're presenting, a product didn't deliver or a service fell short of what was sold of it. How do you handle those relationships in a way that you move past kind of conflict, in order to preserve it and exploit for further needs, so to speak?
Okay. I think one of the ways that I have managed that in the past is by understanding that if I promise something, as much as I'm a representative of a company, right, and I promise someone a project or promise certain deliverables, when we under deliver on it, it's not just the company that has under delivered, it's me as a person, right? And I take my personal reputation very seriously. So I would ensure that we compensate for it, right? And sometimes this means just going back to my internal team to say, hey, we've messed up on this front, right? What can we do to make this relationship better with the client? How can we fix things? And that's not just because I think the company's reputation is at risk. It's also my reputation as a salesperson. Like, as a salesperson, people should be able to trust what you're saying. So if we under deliver on something, it's my responsibility, because I know my reputation is also, I mean, I haven't really gotten anywhere in life, but like, just the fact that I don't want this client to feel like they can't trust the next thing that comes out of my mouth. And people talk, right? People would say, oh, my experience with these people was not so great. So it's, how can you find a way to compensate that client, whether it's in some credits, product credits or ad credits or whatever it is, or you extend a discount for further engagement, right? But it's just important to not leave any client with a sour perception of you as a salesperson and also the company that you're representing. I hope that answered your question.
Yes, it does. It does. Thank you. Daniel, I guess you don't want to go anymore since I read your mind.
Okay.
Hi,
Hi.
Dan. Hi, Dan. Yeah, go ahead. Okay.
Okay. Thank you so much. I think this has actually been very, very insightful.
Is that my network or Daniel's
No,
internet?
I think it's Daniel's.
Okay. Hi,
Um,
hi, Daniel.
am I audible now?
Yes, you are.
Yes, you are. We lost
Okay.
you for a bit. We lost you again.
Okay. While Daniel's trying to get his network together, I think I can see some questions in the comments, so I can start to answer them. So
Yes,
Elizabeth
please.
asked the question around, for the first cold outreach, how would you build relationships with new leads? People recommend interacting with posts. Are there other ways to build relationships and trust? I think for the first interaction, you're not necessarily trying to build a relationship there. You're trying to establish one, right? And so until they really until you have that first contact and they've responded to you, you can't really tell what the client's persona is. You can't tell whether they're interested in your product or not. So it's still, you're putting your options out there pretty much. Once you've had at least the first interaction, that's when you can start the relationship building. And sometimes our cold outreach, and I know that AI has helped us in our work a lot, but sometimes or in recent times, a lot of the cold outreaches that I've seen or that have been sent to me just read like AI speak sometimes. And so it feels like, oh, do I want to respond to this machine? Even though I know it's not a machine that sent it, right? But it just feels like that. There are other times where the first cold outreach feels so personal that it's almost like a lot. And so finding that middle ground is really helpful. I also should just say, like, for building relationship with new leads or establishing relationship with new leads, the thing that works best for me is I treat it as a numbers game, right? So if I'm supposed to close 10 clients, I should definitely be speaking to 5 times that target that I have, so that when I cast my net out there, I at least get a fraction of what it is I've cast out, and that would meet targets that I'm looking for. I hope that's answered your question in a way, Elizabeth. Olawale's dropped a question here. How does one optimize for efficiency without compromising on quality in managing multiple persons, especially in cases where one gets drained easily by interacting with people? Okay, this is very relevant to me because I mentioned at the start of this, I'm a very introverted person, right? And when I go for conferences and events, it's like I've put on another persona because I'm networking, and people who know me beyond work would see me and just like, who is this person, right? But I know what I need to get done. I know it's only going to be for the length of time of the event, for example, or during the week. I have time blocked in my calendar, WhatsApp check-in for multiple clients, and it's just, hey, how's it going? Just wanted to check in on you. It feels like we haven't spoken in a while. Are there any projects you're working on that we can, work together on? You just need to extend yourself. That's the truth of the matter. There's no comfort zone with sales. And I feel like we're in a very unique career path where work sort of intersects with your personal life, because some of these clients you see them out like in person, some of them you're able to meet at events. There's some people like me. Before now, I used to be a very strict person. I didn't used to take work to WhatsApp. Like, I won't respond to work on WhatsApp, but if my clients are using WhatsApp, who am I to stick to email, right? It's uncomfortable, but it's what my clients want, so it's what I have to do. So it's just, yeah, you need to extend yourself beyond your comfort zone at multiple times, especially because you're managing so many people at the same time. You will be drained, but it's also finding that work-life balance. I know that I'm doing all my networking, I'm doing all my offline check-ins from Monday to Friday, because Saturday and Sunday, I don't work at all. So that's just how I compartmentalize in my mind. Moving on to Jennifer's question, co-asking Elizabeth's question, because most of my leads on LinkedIn tend to leave messages read with no replies during the first cold outreach. How else can you do cold outreach and build conversations from there? I think that something that's really critical with cold outreaches that I've seen and learned is personalizing them rather than sending like a blanket email or first message, right? Sometimes I've seen people try to pitch me things and they use their somebody else's name. That means they just copied and pasted like the thing and just sent it to 1,000 of us. So it's really personalizing it and taking each business that it's a lot of additional work, but that's what makes people stand out in their roles, like who's ready to put in that extra effort. So it's, if I'm going to reach out to 100 people, how can I customize my message in a way that feels more personal and in a way that also feels like I've thought about their product or their business before I reached out? That's one way to increase like your chances of getting responses. Bolwat first dropped a message saying, when attending summits or networking events, how can one quickly build rapport with prospects and leave a memorable impression? So something that I personally do, I think I'm a fashion girly to an extent, but when I go out for events and conferences, I like to have a standout look, right? And it's a conversation starter. So I wear really unique outfits where someone asks me, oh, hey, like there are people who I've tried to pitch cold emails to who don't even remember me from my cold email, but they just walk up to me and like, hey, I like this Actually, okay, print here. Where did you get it from? I'm like, oh, this is this big person who I've reached out to multiple times but never engaged me. Right. So it's how can you make yourself stand out? And this doesn't mean you have to always, like, it doesn't have to be an outfit thing for you. It might just be a way of approaching them. Maybe moving beyond. There was something I tried at a summit I went for, and it was moving beyond business cards. There's this online business card that you can scan, and everybody who I asked to scan mine found it so interesting, and we just got talking from there. So it's finding unique touch points in your conversations to leave a memorable impression. Also, following up quickly, right? People have shorter memory spans than we think. So when I would ideally say that if I meet somebody today, within the next 3 days, I should send a follow-up text or email, depending on whatever channel they've given me to communicate with them, so that I'm top of mind at least, right? Or when I get somebody's number, if we exchange WhatsApps, I send a message immediately. I say, hi, this is Favour. We just spoke. I look forward to connecting further. So I can go through that message and respond again. So I'm following up on something, and it's not just a first like outreach 2 weeks from when we had our first conversation. I hope that's answered your question. Gertrude, you have your hands up before I go into the next couple of questions.
I was going to add to the question on leads, getting leads to reply to the conversation. So I wanted to stress that there is a disparity between getting a lead to respond to your conversation and, eventually building a relationship from there. When you are trying to get your lead to respond to your email or whatever way you have communicated to them, you need to understand that some leads will not respond. I was going to add to that. Some leads won't respond, and you need to find ways to navigate that by reaching out to more leads, identifying your ideal customers, and then eventually those that respond, you then focus on building relationships with them. Those that convert, you then focus on building relationships with them. So yeah, I wanted to add that. And then there's also Grace, her hand is up. So yeah, I was going to mention that as well.
Okay, so just to add to Gertrude's point, I think it's really important, 2 things that I want to highlight from what Gertrude has said. And it's one is you need to increase your chances, right? If you're a sales development representative and you have maybe 10 clients to close each month or 10 clients to speak to each week, you can't have just 10 clients on your list. You need to maybe multiply that by 3. I like a safe number of 5, right? If I'm chasing 100 million targets, that means that my pipeline should at least be 10 times that, so that I'm saying if I have only a 10% close, right, this is what I'm able to get. Another thing is, especially if you're in the early stages of your career as a salesperson, you need to build thick skin for rejection and ghosting. Like, earlier in my career, when I get a rejection, I will cry sometimes, or I will just have a bad week. But now, if you reject me, I've moved on already. I'll just be like, oh, okay, that's good. Yeah, and I move on very quickly. And that's because I have so many things in my pipeline that I'm chasing, that one leaving or one falling through doesn't affect the quality of your pipeline. I think that's something that's really critical to consider as well. Yes. Hi, Grace. You have your hands up before I move on to the next question in chat.
Yes, please. Thank you very much. This is an interesting conversation we're having here, and I'm glad I joined. Now, the question I want to ask is somehow linked to a comment you made earlier and what Gertrude just said a couple of seconds ago. It's about knowing when to move on from a non-response, someone who is not responding, right? It's knowing when, okay, there's nothing you can get here, and not particularly because they're not interested, but they might be busy. Like you said, you might be chatting with a CEO who doesn't have time to respond to messages or respond on time. They can go a week, 2 weeks before going through their messages. So when do you identify such lags and either move on to there's a term you call someone within the management space, maybe middle management or an intern, whoever is in that space, how do you know when to pivot from that person or decide that that's not a conversation to continue? Because a
Okay.
lot of time, at least for me personally, in sales, sometimes my personality comes into play. When I'm chatting people and I don't get response, I feel like I'm bugging them, right? But that might not always be the case. So how do I manage that, if you get my question?
Yeah, yeah. Thanks, Grace. That's a very important question. Just as an aside, earlier this week I was telling my CEO that it feels like I'm chatting with myself in one of my clients' WhatsApps because they've not responded to me for the longest time, but I just keep dropping reminders, knowing fully well that they're busy. For example, I know that they were at like a program all through the past 2 weeks, and so they're busy. But me going back and dropping messages just keeps what I'm trying to pitch to them top of mind, right? How do you know when to move on? I think some of that you get from just experience with working with people. I personally, and this might not work for everybody, I have if I send you 3 to 4, maybe 4 emails max, after my first cold outreach and I don't hear back, my fourth email would be, oh, I'm just doing a final check-in to see if there's something that you're still interested in. If you don't respond to me after my final check-in, then I guess you're not interested. Sometimes I do that final check-in email and they then reply to me, oh, apologies, I missed this, or apologies, I have not come back. We were just busy. So sometimes it might just be pushing yourself and it might just be a door that you have to keep knocking multiple times. It might also be just you having some notes to say, this is a final check-in. Please let me know if this is something you're interested in. Um, at every given point in time as well, I also try to have more than one contact person at an organization. That way you somehow get to know, the truth of the matter. That's again, sometimes someone who is sitting in like a younger role might be able to tell you the truth more than a CEO might, right? A CEO might not respond to you on time and say, oh, this is something we're thinking about. But a more junior person on the team would be like, hey, I'll tell you the truth, right? I don't think this is a priority for us. You can keep emailing and keep checking in, but I don't think this would close this half year or this quarter. Maybe it's a next year priority. And the CEO might never have been able to tell you that. So I would advise having 2 people within each organization. Not just somebody that's very, very senior, but also somebody that's maybe mid-level or junior who doesn't receive as many emails and will probably be able to respond to your email quicker, right? Um, also, sometimes you might just have to trust your intuition, right? We all have different like sales patterns and sequences that we go through. There's some companies where it's you send the first email, 2 days later, if you haven't gotten a response, you send another. You might send 4 or 5 emails before you move them into like a close or lose buckets in your funnel. But there's some times as well where I've put clients in that close or lose, but I just have the intuition that I feel like this product that I'm pitching is the right fit for them. Sometimes eventually convert, sometimes my intuition is wrong. So I would say just following your gut, but also having a clear sequence, right? For each client, what's the number of times you want to, maximum times you want to reach out before you move them into like a cold section in your pipeline? I think that that's really important as well. I hope I've answered your question, Grace. Do you have any follow-up questions from that?
No, I don't. Thank you very much. It's helpful.
So,
Okay.
okay, sorry, I wanted to add something to it. I know that to what you said, Favor, you're very correct in like sending 1, 2, 3, 4 emails. There's something that we do like in my company. If you have if you work an account, that's the word we use. If I say I take up Big Cabal and I'm working Big Cabal, that means I'm sending an email, I'm reaching out on LinkedIn and calling and everything, and I stop an activity or any activity from it in the next 30 days, somebody else is open to trying that out. And some of the times we've noticed that maybe somebody else starts trying them out maybe 2 months later, and then they book and they close. So what we try to do is that because we kind of have like different products that we're selling, we put them on different cadences of those different products. Right now that we're talking, I was just on Slack and I saw my colleague close the deal that he's been following up since 9 months ago. So sometimes you play the long game with them, sometimes you play the short one with them. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes, we can.
Okay. I just wanted to be sure. So sometimes you play the short game with them, sometimes you play the long game with them. Like Favour said, sometimes we have this instinct that this account is going to close. This account is a good one. They're probably just busy, So you put in as much work as you can. I've had like multiple accounts that have worked for months. I have an account I've worked since last year, and it's just this year that it closed. So you can play the long game, but if that instinct comes in, please play the long game. Even if it takes 2 years, play the long game, and you see results.
Said as well is, again, depending on the deal size, right? There's some conversations that you've just said took a year to close. There's some things that I've been chasing for the past 2 years. I'm in my second year, and I'm like, you know what? In fact, I have things I've been chasing for the past 3 years, right? Especially some large scale deals. You also need to say if this is within this maybe commercial amount, there's a tendency that it's not just going to sit on one desk for approval, right? It might take multiple iterations of approval, and so that might increase the sales cycle and the sale timeline. So yeah, thank you so much. That was so useful. I'm just gonna go to, I think there's one more question in the comments. For cold calls, how can you build rapport quickly to stop the leads from hanging up immediately you say something? Or they end up saying, I'm not interested, take us off your list without actually listening to what you have to say. What will you advise to be done or said? I'm curious, for the person who asked this question, are you a telesales executive? Because this reads like feedback from a call.
Hi, Jemima, are you there? It might also be someone who is in a sales team, quite all right, but they do a lot of cold calling to prospects.
So,
Yeah.
it's pronounced Jemima, but yes, I'm here. I am an
Please go ahead.
inside sales consultant, and most times when we reach out to these leads through cold calls, they end the call on you. Sometimes all you've said is probably the first introduction, maybe just your name, and they're like, "Oh, I'm not interested. Take me off your list," and they end the call on you. Sometimes they are rude to you. So we do emails, we do LinkedIn, and then we do cold calls. But my question was around cold calling. Is there like an opener you think could work? Because most of the conversations I have are research based, so
Okay.
it's not like it's general opening for them. So I was just asking, what do you advise? What do you think? You could one could say to build rapport quickly and to keep them on the call.
Okay. I think something that's critical, and I will say I'm also guilty of this, right? Especially for when people cold call me to sell me products. There's sometimes where in the first 10 seconds of the call, the person hasn't allowed me say anything and they've just gone on, introduced themselves, talk about the product. A personal touch just might be, am I speaking with this person, right? And then you introduce yourself. That's where you've like, and sometimes the reason why cold calling might be a bit tricky is you just might meet people at the bad time. With the way the world is set up right now, I would say it's a bad time for people 50, at least half of the time, right? So you just might meet them at a bad time during the day, or they're in a meeting or something. So I would say the first thing is don't take any of their feedback, like, or their like rudeness personal at the time. It just might not be a great time. But how are you able to, and you can do some research on this, maybe even ask ChatGPT as well. How are you able to make your introduction a bit more personal? And this might just be testing it out on a couple of close friends and family, right? And saying, if someone calls you this way, I do this a lot with some of my sales pitches. I bring my siblings on the line and I pitch to them, and I have them ask me questions, especially with like my opening, because you mostly lose people or win them with an opening. And so how are you able to make your intro more personal? Instead of just leading with, hello, my name is X from this place. I'm calling to talk to you about this. It's how can you say, hello, Favor, good afternoon, right? Something as simple as good afternoon makes a huge difference. You'll be shocked at, especially if you are speaking to Nigerians. I didn't know this before, but saying good morning, good afternoon, good evening is so essential to Nigerians. It's more important than you think to them, right? So finding some personal touch points and asking a question like, is this a good time, right? Because for some people, truly, it just might not be a good time. So asking a question, is this a good time? And then introducing yourself might do the trick. I'm not promising that it will, but it just might do the trick. Yes, Jemima, you have a follow-up question.
Yeah, it's not basically a question, but it's related to what you just answered. I work with the NEPQ framework. It's basically around human psychology, where you're
Okay.
trying to push somebody to buy something, let them realize that there is a problem that they did not even know they had. You realize that they realize that they have this problem, and then you end up solving it for them. So my opener, actually, I've done cold calling for Nigerian um firms. I've done for the firms in the US. It's actually easier to call Nigerians, I'll be honest with you. um for the US, when I call, I ask them, oh, is this a good time to speak? Or can I have like 30 seconds of your time? And when they give me that time, I make sure it's within 30 seconds for the one that actually, wants to listen and then let you talk to them. But majority of the time, it's almost like they don't even want to listen. And then it keeps me wondering, is it that over time cold calling has, lost its, I'm trying to think of the right word, but value is coming to mind. And then most people don't even want to listen to you when you call.
Yeah,
That's what has been in my mind, that I feel maybe that's the problem. Maybe it's not even about um maybe
the
it's not about
technique.
my outreach or something.
Yeah, yeah, I'll definitely echo that. I think that it's not as popular as it was before. Before like emails and like social channels for selling, sales managers primarily used calling as like the only channel, right? But some people might prefer, like me, it's easier to pitch me something on email or WhatsApp than a call, because in that moment I can multitask. I can do email and do something else. But when I'm on a call, it feels like that's the only thing that's going to take my attention. And because it's a very busy world and busy space, people just want to move things very quickly. Maybe that's why people aren't as responsive. So I would say in some areas and for some particular products, it might still be the channel that converts the most for them. But I'll say just broadly, I don't think it's as popular now as it used to be before. Yes, Gertrude, you have your hands up.
Yeah, I was going to add to that. Cold calling is not easy, but cold calling is not dead, to be very honest. When you're having challenges like this, you want to refine your script, like Favour had said, explore personalization, and you want to then check the quality of the leads that you're reaching out to. Do they even have that pinpoint of what you're trying to sell to them? And like Elizabeth said in the comment section, try reaching out to the same lead via different channels. So I really hope that helps. We are running out of time. Do we have more questions in the comments?
Mm, Not a question,
Yeah.
just like one sentence or two on this. To be very
Okay.
honest, Jemima, some people are having a bad day at the moment you called. I've called somebody and his daughter is crying beside him. I've called somebody and they're genuinely, you can hear the plane lift up. I've called somebody and then they are just genuinely busy at the moment. They probably had a bad day. They're not open to speaking to you at that point. It goes back to what Favour says about having a thick skin in sales. If you have changed your opener, and there's an opener that works for you, and you use it for a particular prospect and it doesn't work, I don't think you are doing something really terrible. Or maybe your opener doesn't work. It didn't just work on that person. Maybe try another channel, try LinkedIn, try email again, try Twitter, So yes, it converts very fast, but most of the time people are not just open to talking to a total stranger. So you have to factor that in, and don't basically think too much about it. Once you're sure that your opener is working, and your pitch is working and is very short, and you have researched the company. So those are the things you need to put into perspective while doing cold call.
All right. Thank you, Akachi, for that insight. And you should take Akachi's advice. She is a guru when it comes to outreach and lead generation and booking those meetings. One last thing I was going to say, and I think it is relevant to what we just talked about and what Grace, I think it was Grace's question. It's about building a nurture list. So while you have all those leads that are not responding, persons that have moved through your sequence and they did not convert, build a nurture list. Those that you're calling and they're not responding and you've tried everything, build a nurture list. Through your nurture list, you're connecting with them on social media, on different ways that you can be in their faces. You're attending networking events and you're, oh, hi, I reached out to you, blah, blah. You're not even trying to sell anymore at that moment, but you're just trying to build a relationship because you know that this person needs my selling. This person will need it in future, somehow, somewhere. And by staying visible that way and being relevant, it eventually will convert for you. It has happened with me a lot of times. Even if it didn't even convert at my former organization, it's converting now in my present, organization, just by being able to build a nurture list and building a relationship through it all. So yes, we've come to the end of this conversation. It has been so insightful. I had a list of questions. Unfortunately, I can't go through all of it, but I'm leaving this conversation a lot better than I came. I really hope that's the same for you all too. So thank you so much, Favour. Thank you for doing this with us, for rocking with us. This is your first time here. We really hope that it won't be the last. All the valuable insights.
I'm happy to always come back. I really enjoyed this session as well. I wish I had something like
You
this.
see, I told you. Yeah.
Yeah, because I had to do a lot.
Yeah, you need to do this more often, Favour. You need to share more. Favour is, do you know her nickname? Talk and do. That's her nickname. Literally, she's one of those silent salespeople that are doing great, amazing numbers, but they don't talk. They don't post on LinkedIn. They don't tell us, okay, because Midabasi, what Midabasi has taught me. They don't do that. So you guys, she might not be so active on social media, but she is. Every time you see us having Favour on any of our live sessions, just run down there and sign up for it. Thank you so much, everyone. Remember,
thank you so much, Favour. I really
yes. Okay, thank you, Akachi. That was Akachi's voice. Akachi is the co-founder of Texas Nexus, by the way.
Yes.
And just to close, everyone, remember that sales is more than transactions. Sales is about building trust and relationships that stand the test of time. Don't be pressured by the numbers, by the sale, by the target. Think, how am I solving this person's problem? And while you're trying to solve the person's problem, you're also thinking, if I'm not solving this person's problem right now, okay, no problem. I would maintain a relationship with this person and, look for others that I can solve their problems. Until our next session, keep learning, keep connecting, and keep selling smarter. Bye, everyone. Thanks, Favour. Good night.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Bye.